Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Barnstable, Unitarian Universalists. I am Marcella Curry. I'm our service leader this morning. We acknowledge that our church and lands rest upon unceded ancestral lands of Wampanoag people who have lived and been sustained in this territory for over 12,000 years. I extend a special welcome to our visitors and encourage you to join us after the service for fellowship and refreshments. If you would like to know more about Unitarian Universalism or our congregation, please fill out a guest card in the pew back in front of you. Return it to an usher or to me. Here, we celebrate the presence and participation of people who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or gender nonconforming. Here, Black Lives Matter. Here, we are a green sanctuary, lifting up the climate crisis in which we find ourselves and promote the values of a sustainable planet. In the spirit of welcome, please rise in body or spirit and greet one another. Good morning. Okay, we'll have more time later in the fellowship hall. I invite your attention to the announcements that are written in the order of service. We are pleased to have with us this morning our guest speaker, Dr. Scott Allen. Important to us is he's the son of Jane and Bob. He's a physician and professor internationally recognized in the field of health and human rights. He's the author of a memoir which will be for sale in the fellowship hall, and all the money collected from those sales are going to be donated to the church. Shek, will you please light our chalice? Words by Lisa Garcia Sampson. In these wild, historic, and uncertain times, we gather to remember who we are, who we belong to, and what we are called to do. As we light this chalice, we kindle the spirit of the great turning, the movement for justice alive in this nation today. May we feel it in our bones and in the stillness of this hour. May we sense it calling our name. Please rise as you are able and join in unison of the affirmation printed in your order of service. Most weeks, we have a ritual, pebbles of joy and concern. We pick up a pebble or two, we hold it and imbue the pebbles with our joys and or our concerns, and then place the pebble in our communal waters. This ritual allows us to share in spirit what is troubling us, what is filling us with joy, what we are questioning. It also allows us to be in community with each other, recognizing we are all carrying much in our hearts. We invite all who wish to come forward down the center aisle in 2 rows and place a pebble of joy or concern in our communal waters. We encourage everyone to take this time as an opportunity for silent prayer and reflection. Values Prayer After St. Francis by Christopher Buse. Make us instruments of your peace. Where there is indifference, may we bring justice. Where there is selfishness, may we bring equity. Where there is stagnation, may we bring transformation. Where there is homogeneity, next time, I don't want a word I can't pronounce, but tried it. May we bring pluralism. Where there is isolation, may we bring interdependence. Where there is greed, may we bring generosity. And where there is hatred, may we bring love. Make us instruments of your peace with love at the center of everything we do. Please rise as you are able for hymn number 1021 in the Teal hymnal. Our responsive reading today is number 567 in the gray hymnal. It's in the back. I'll start off with the short paragraph, and then if you'll respond with the italics. I want to be with people who submerge in the task. Who stand in the line and haul in their places. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, hoppy vases that held corn, are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. For this church that gives so much to us, we now have a chance to give back. The morning offering will now be received. Please rise in body or spirit and join in the dedication and offering doxology printed in your order of service.
No man is an island entire of itself. Each is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a cloud be washed away by the sea, Europe is less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thine own or of thine friends were. Each man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. Therefore, send not to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee.
Good morning. It was over 20 years ago when I was first invited to give a sermon at this church. Over 20 years ago. It only took 20 years for you all to forget or recover. I want to begin my sermon this morning with an important disclosure. I noticed the lovely sign out front, and in the program it says Dr. Scott Allen will be giving a talk. And indeed, I am a medical doctor, but I'll be speaking around the issue of trauma and recovery from trauma. But I'm not that kind of a doctor. I'm an internist, the kind of doctor who treats your high blood pressure or diabetes. In fact, on the subject at hand, the only expertise I can share with you is the wisdom I learned as a child. Believe it or not, after all these years, it's still my best material. When I finally wrote the memoir, Across a Bridge of Fire, I wrote about the child experiences that led me to this wisdom. And I'll share a brief version. I did say a brief version. There are family and friends who are sitting here absolutely mortified that I'm going to recite the entire book. Now, if you were hoping to get the answer to life, the universe, and everything, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to refer you to the work of Douglas Adams and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And that satirical science fiction work from the 1970s, a supercomputer, think of AI, finally provides the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And I can tell you, as the computer declares, the answer is 42. 42. And if that makes no sense to you, then the computer goes on to say, you probably really didn't fully understand the question. So I'm not here to provide the answer to life's biggest questions, because I, too, am still totally confused by the question, but I can share with you the wisdom of a child who was confronted at an early age, in an uncommon way, with one very common life challenge. And all I can do is share how I got through it. Now, maybe because of our experience 20 years ago and my father's trepidation, he gave me the same public speaking advice he's been giving me for years. He said, you've got a great story, it has dramatic parts, grab the audience, dive into it, command their attention. Well, Dad, you know, I love you, and with all due respect, that is not how the professionals do it. As anyone with experience in public speaking knows, the way you begin to talk like this is you start with a short chemistry lesson. Well, the thinking is, I know some of you are horrified, is he going to try to introduce a chemistry lesson into our sanctuary? But when I get beyond it, you'll all be relieved. So why chemistry? Well, first of all, as we'll all learn, what you don't know can kill you. And as an aside, What You Don't Know Can Kill You was also the title of a Murder, She Wrote episode that aired May 5th, 1996. Now, pay attention to these dates I give you because I will use them when I try to defend the foolishness of my 10-year-old self. So here's the chemistry lesson you need to know. It's about a concept called flashpoint. From a 1977 pocket guide for Marine Corps fuel handlers, cited in a wonderful book called Fuji Fire by Chas Henry. And I quote, "Liquid fuels are dangerous materials as they vaporize easily and burn rapidly." From a different 1973 Navy safety manual, quote, "Fuel in the form of vapor must be present when anything burns because it's not the actual substance or liquid which is consumed by the flame, but the vapor in combination with the oxygen in the air." Now hang in here with me. We're almost there. The lowest temperature at which vapors rising from a fuel's liquid combine with the air to create a mixture capable of igniting or flashing is called the flash point. Fuels with higher flash points, they carry lower risk of fire. So for example, flash point of kerosene is 115. The ambient temperature would have to be around 115 for that to ignite. Jet fuel has to be around 140 degrees. Diesel, 126 to 205. However, fuels that carry a lower flash point carry a higher risk of fire. So what's the flash point for the kind of gasoline you pump in your car that we all handle every day? Minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Doesn't that make you feel safe? That's why we don't smoke at the gas station. The flash point, that's a key concept. It's the moment when suddenly everything explosively changes. So let me tell you my flash point story. Now the temperature in northwestern Connecticut on August 3rd, 1972 was 94 degrees. You know, we have Mr. Google. I was able to look that up for you. And on August 3rd, 1972, I had just turned 10 years old. And I will confess, I was not a chemistry prodigy. I had not read the military fuel handling manuals, and in my defense, remember the dates, they hadn't been published yet. So on that hot summer day in 1972, 3 boys, ages 10 to 11, were attempting to light a campfire in a clearing in the woods beside the family home. With the ambient temperature of 94, the flash point for gas of minus 40, vapors from the uncapped gas can were ignited, and the can exploded into something like a flamethrower. Like a tragic version of Spin the Bottle, the uncapped gas can that exploded was pointed towards one of the boys, and that boy was engulfed in flames. You know, that boy almost died, but he didn't. When the flames were out, he had suffered third-degree burns over 35% of his body, and that boy, as you might have suspected, was me. Now, I don't want to dwell on the trauma of that moment. It was a long, long time ago. In fact, it was 53 years and 1 week ago today. It was a moment that changed not only my life, but the lives of my family and many others. But on that, I survived. I'm here. I'm more or less fine. I'm damaged goods, but I'm still here. Today, I really want to focus on what came after the fire, after that dramatic flashpoint. Well, of course, I endured a long and physically painful recovery from my injuries. But the summer of '72 fundamentally changed how I saw the world and understood my place in it. In the burn hospital, I came into close contact with other children who had been badly burned, much worse than I had been. I prematurely came face to face with human suffering, and I also learned that the suffering of others was connected to my own suffering. Well, how did I figure that out so young? It's really not complicated. At the Shriners Hospital in Boston, in those days, the burn unit was an open unit with 15 children lined up next to each other in one room around a cramped nurse station. It was never quiet. Someone was always screaming. So together, we all felt pain as one. We cried out as one, and we suffered as one. Now, even though you may not have experienced trauma as a child, if you've lived long enough, you have likely experienced your own flashpoint, a moment where everything you understood about the world is gone in a flash, where the ground you're standing on is no longer solid, where you go into a free fall. There's nothing to anchor you in the world anymore. Maybe your flashpoint was a different kind of accident. Maybe it was a sudden loss of a loved one. Maybe it was experiencing abuse or a betrayal. Maybe it was being given a life-changing medical diagnosis. The list of how life can change in a flash in a way that disrupts your understanding of the world and your place in it is infinite. Now, a flashpoint that happens to a child is even more challenging. The protective and coping mechanisms are primitive and wisdom is lacking. So how does a child go forward after learning the truth about human suffering? Well, again, I can only share my own story. My own instincts were forged in that crucible of the burn ward. It was there that I first saw that we were all connected. No man is an island. Having understood this, I began to move forward. First, with the help of my fellow patients, healthcare professionals, and a healing community at home. But most of all, with the love, support, and wisdom of two families. Two very different families, survivors of two very different traumas, but the families and the stories would intersect in a most unlikely way. Now, the first family to help me and my journey to heal is my birth family, and most importantly, my parents, Jane and Bob Allen. Many of you know them well. In fact, as we were greeting each other this morning, one of your fellow parishioners approached me and said what so many people have said to me over the years: do you realize how wonderful your parents are? And I said, did you read my book? So what a gift they are. And I'm so honored that I have the opportunity, 53 years later, to stand before you all and thank them. In short, they provided every support and encouragement. Most of all, I always knew I was loved. And I always knew that they cared about me and that they were rock solid. They were the foundation of my recovery. And they have provided a bedrock support for me for my entire 63 years of life. They are the foundation. But a building is more than a foundation. My family and community, the love and support, it only got me so far. I still had unanswered questions as an adolescent. And while still a boy, I began to look for those answers beyond that foundation of support. I knew I still had work to do. At the age of 17, while I was still in high school, this is 1979, I saw in the news the exodus of starving Cambodians fleeing the Khmer Rouge into Thailand. And something about the reports of their suffering struck me, and I decided I had to do something. So we've talked about how wonderful my parents are, and on March 4th, 1980, I left them a lovely letter that began as follows. Dear Mom and Dad, I have left for Thailand. In the middle of my senior year, I left home in the dark of night, and I flew on a one-way ticket to Thailand with a sincere but woefully underdeveloped hope of helping the Cambodian people. I had no idea what I would do there. I didn't know anything about the place I was going. I just felt that I had to be there. As hard as it may be to believe, I did make it to Thailand, and I did manage to get work within days with a voluntary refugee agency, and I was sent to the Cambodian border. It's in the very first minutes of entering the very first refugee camp on the Thai-Cambodian border that I met the second family that would help me on my path to healing. Now, I think most people searching for answers to life might have overlooked this family. The family consisted of a 32-year-old widow named Tita and her 7 minor children. The oldest, 17 years old, my age, the youngest, merely 5. None of them spoke a word of English, and I spoke no Khmer, the language of the Cambodians. Now, you suffered through the chemistry lesson, so indulge me a brief history lesson. For expediency, a very oversimplified version of a complex period. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. invaded then neutral Cambodia and undertook a massive bombing campaign across the country to slow the flow of arms and personnel through the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The bombing, though, had the unintended effect of boosting the popularity of the Cambodian communists, the so-called Khmer Rouge. And in April '75, 2 weeks after Saigon fell, Phnom Penh also falls to the Khmer Rouge. And they began a 4-year reign of terror. Phnom Penh was emptied entirely, and intellectuals and people associated with the former government or any sort of Western associations were moved into the countryside to be exploited as slave labor. Many former military and government officials were executed, and in the years that followed, a resulting famine took the lives of thousands. So from 1975 until the Vietnamese invaded Cambodia in 1979, overthrowing the Khmer Rouge, 1.5 to 2 million Cambodians perished. That's an estimated 1/4 to 1/3 of the pre-war population. Among the malnourished and exploited, Tita and her children. Among the dead, Tita's husband and the children's father. He had been a former director of arts and music programs for the province of Battambang in Cambodia. So here's Tita. She'd lost everything: her husband, her home, her status, her country. She had labored in the fields under the supervision of armed teenage soldiers. Her 3 eldest children were sent away from the family and away from each other onto so-called mobile youth teams. These were no more than slave encampments, employed the teens as young as 10 years old. I would have expected Tita to be discouraged, emotionally spent, at wit's end. But you know what? She was none of those things. In a setting where I was surrounded by a mass of refugees, all desperately competing for my attention, I was one of the few Americans in the camp in those days. This woman, who spoke no English, reached out, grabbed my hand, pulled me towards her to sit down within minutes of my arriving in the camp. And thus began the most unlikely friendship. In the coming days and weeks, Tita provided a light amidst all the darkness. She showed me how to laugh in spite of her dire circumstances, how to love, how to keep the flame of hope for a better future alive. And most of all, she taught me how to embrace and connect with others across a language barrier and culture gaps, across very different life circumstances. And one tale that could have been ripped from an O. Henry novel, I, who really didn't have any money, I arrived with like $15 in my pocket, took what meager money I had, and when I was in town, I bought a sarong, nice, brightly colored sarong, to bring her so that she would have something else to wear, because she had so little herself. But the next day when I got back to camp, she had cut up the sarong and sewed it into a shirt for me. Can I stop, by the way, and mention that you must wonder, where did this come from? Why am I wearing this? Well, 2 of her daughters are with us here today, and I'm deeply honored. And Tita, daughter Tita, same name as her mother, put this around my neck as she came in. This is now 45 years later, the family still loving and giving. Against camp rules, I remained in the camp overnight, sharing cramped sleeping quarters with Tita's family in a small section of the bamboo barracks, behind barbed wire and under guard of armed Thai soldiers. In the confines of this refugee camp, I cohabitated with a family of survivors. And through my growing love and connection with this wonderful family, I began to heal. I began to believe that there was meaning in this life, and I began to believe I had a purpose. I began to see some good in the world with so much pain and suffering. Now, the unlikely story continues because several months later, still at the age of 17, I landed a job with the United States Embassy in the refugee section and was able to help Tita's family, along with many others fleeing war, come to the United States as refugees fleeing persecution. And as I've already alluded to this day, 45 years later, Tita's family is my second family. She and I remained so close until her untimely death at the age of 59. And as she lay dying in Long Beach, California from a massive stroke, I was with her daughters at her bedside, holding the hand that had reached out and grabbed mine all these years ago. So Tita's children are my sisters and brothers. They've been my family for 45 years. What is the essence of the lesson Tita modeled for me? That compassion is actually self-care. Paraphrasing Tolstoy, the World War I poet Siegfried Sassoon wrote, "The most difficult and most meritorious thing in life is to love it in spite of all its undeserved suffering." So how do I cope with my own awareness of all the undeserved suffering? How can I love in an unjust and imperfect world? Well, in that refugee camp, I found something to love about this world. I found really an antidote to suffering. That antidote is so simple that a child could see it and understand it. The antidote to suffering is to show compassion for the suffering of others. Compassion is something good. It's light in the darkness. For me, it's the only way I could find relief. It's the only way I could move forward. It's the only thing that made any sense. Now, be compassionate. Does that sound maybe a little too simple? Well, yes. It's the wisdom of a child. At the same time, does it sound overwhelming? I mean, there's so much suffering. And we'd rather not think about it. In fact, it's our protective instinct is to deny it or look away. But compassion doesn't mean that you take up someone else's burden for them or solve all their problems or respond to the suffering of everyone. It simply means that you notice people, that you genuinely recognize them, that you're present, that you provide at least a little comfort. Can you be kind? Can you show concern? Can you act with love, understanding? Can you do even the smallest thing that might make their life a little better? And what if the suffering is hidden? Well, you know, it more often than not is. So here's the thing. You know, in medicine, when handling infectious fluids, we're taught you don't know which ones might have a virus or not, so practice universal precautions. That way you'll always be safe. Well, guess what? Similar with compassion. Just assume everyone has troubles. Treat everyone with kindness. When I met Tita, we bonded and connected in the absence of a common verbal language. A lot of what I'm talking about isn't even what you say. It's the expression on your face. It's your ability to connect with another human being. She showed me real compassion, and I hope and believe I showed it to her. You know, we're so discouraged about the world we live in, but my own humble opinion is that one of our big problems as a society is we just don't recognize our common involvement in humanity. Another person's suffering is our suffering. So compassion is essential, not just because it's a nice thing to do. It's essential because we don't exist in isolation. We are a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Each man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. To recognize the suffering of others is to acknowledge your own pain. To ease another's pain is to ease your own. To help another heal is the path to healing yourself. That's it. That is the wisdom of a child. Compassion. Try it. Trust me, I'm a doctor. It really works. Thank you.
Please rise as you are able for hymn number 1029 in the teal hymnal. Benediction words by Carrie Holly Hurt. Love holds you. Love bears witness to all your inherent dignity and worthiness. It witnesses how you try, succeed, and fail, and it does not flinch. Love will not let you go. Love holds all of you. Please be seated.